Hello, everybody. My name is Jimmy Carroll. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Tech B2B Marketing, and welcome to this episode of the Manufacturing Matters podcast, where we aim to discuss the trends and technology shaping the manufacturing industry today. On this episode, I have the pleasure of being joined by my colleague Amanda Del Buono Lilley and Christelle Keefer at ABB. Amanda, thanks, obviously, and Christelle, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jimmy and Amanda. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thanks very much again, and I'm looking forward to asking you a bunch of questions. So I guess I'll just start out with an easy one for you, though. Everyone knows about ABB. At least anyone tuning into this podcast would know about ABB. But tell us a little bit about what's exciting right now for ABB, what you guys are doing, and what's behind your passion for advancing automation through education.
Sounds great. So I'm the Global Segment Manager for Education at ABB Robotics. And you mentioned my passion. So my passion really comes from knowing that today's students are tomorrow's workforce. And it's our responsibility to help prepare them for success. You know, teachers play a vital role in building that foundation, but technology is advancing so quickly, so they also need support. And that's where industry comes in. So what drives me is being able to connect education and industry, supporting teachers and students to really close the skills gap and build a stronger future.
So to your point about your passion, why is education and student outreach so important right now? And, how is it helping the workforce pipeline? You see this every day. How is ABB actually affecting change there?
Yeah, so education and student outreach are really critical because we're preparing students today for jobs that may not even exist yet. So, really, the sooner we expose the students to automation, robotics, problem solving, the more comfortable they become with it. Think about how much easier it was for kids who grew up with tablets and computers to adapt compared to someone trying to learn the technology later in life. Early exposure really builds confidence, curiosity, and a comfort level that helps create a stronger and more capable workforce. So, given how many advanced manufacturing and technician roles are projected to go unfilled over the next decade, we really can't afford to wait. And the pipeline depends on students being able to see themselves in these roles and having clear pathways through schools, through technical programs and apprenticeships.
It's such a good point, right? Like my niece, who is now 18 years old, I remember her picking up my phone and figuring out how to navigate to Netflix to watch some cartoon when she was like 2 or 3. And my father, when he got his first smartphone, had to take a class on how to learn how to use it, right? Yeah. So there's like a big gap there. And just, going back to the idea of making these jobs interesting for people, right? So how can people do that, right? So it feels like in some way that automation, it's kind of funny, right? Because years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, or maybe going back even a little bit further, people were afraid that robots were going to take their jobs, right? And since then, it's kind of been dispelled. It has been dispelled largely, right? But it almost feels now like robots can help create jobs for people because young people might want to work alongside them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. It's all about enhancement, not replacement. So
what are the ways then that people in the industry, that the manufacturers, educators, people like you, and just the manufacturing community in general, how can they beyond the promise and appeal of cool robots, right? Like how could you make manufacturing jobs appealing to young people? I think one way is with letting them know that, hey, these are really good, high-paying jobs. But what are some other ways that you've seen like successfully implemented to get these, to get the workforce pipeline filled?
Yeah, it really takes a team effort. Industry can provide access to technology, provide mentorship, internships, co-ops, and apprenticeships. On the community side, communities can encourage curiosity and break old stereotypes about manufacturing jobs being dull, dirty, and dangerous. They can expose kids, even the workforce, to STEM through clubs. There's some great books out there, some videos that show applications of robotics and automation that are pretty sweet nowadays because it goes beyond just automotive, you're starting to see more and more robotics and automation in the food and beverage industry, construction, but even, purchasing toys for kids like Lego robotics or even Snap Circuits gets them excited about them doing hands-on activities in STEM and getting them exposed to that. So on the side of academia and schools, they can help by building clear pathways to technical careers, whether that's through field trips or inviting guest speakers from local businesses to come into their classrooms and speak to their students about their career paths or about their technology. Also, local expos and shows that are going on. That's a great way to engage the students to the technologies that are evolving. No, they can also offer, I think this is super important, offering robotics classes directly in the curriculum, not just an after school program. That way, students who don't have transportation or the ability to stay late can get the opportunity to be exposed. Making robotics
Mhm.
part of the school day really ensures that there's access for everyone, not just those who can participate outside of class time. So, all in all, when industry, education, and communities work together, students start to see manufacturing and automation as exciting and a meaningful career path for themselves. The key is making the program systematic, not just one-off events. So be consistent, so students everywhere, not just in well-resourced schools, have access to them.
Yeah, and I know, Amanda, I just want to say one thing. I know you have questions. I just want to follow up because I really love that answer. The idea of making robots part of the curriculum, and because I think about, and my major in college was in journalism, and while there is merit in learning things like taking classes like pre 18th century British literature, of course there are things like everyone should read all these Jane Eyre and Shakespeare and everything, but like for what I'm doing today, there's like really no applicability, right? So for people to learn robots, it's like, well, there's a more direct path to a career instead of saying, now I know a lot about Charles Dickens and what do I do next? Not that there's a direct correlation, but you know what I mean. So
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and it's the evolution, right? I mean, I'm sure like when my parents were in school, they weren't using like the TI 89 $150 calculator either. So it's right, the evolution of where our society is
Mhm.
moving in this direction. So it seems like education should be following suit and not, teaching antiquated skill sets.
Yeah.
Um,
Bring the shop classes back.
right, and that too. I always think
Come
about
on.
the town I grew up in is a very blue collar area. We have, some like mills and stuff, and there's like a power facility not too far away. And I was like, how come nobody talked to me about this in school? Like I grew up here, and it was like go to college, get a degree, and it was then later on, and when I was working at a publication, it was like could have gotten a 2-year process control certificate and been making really good money just down the street. And it wasn't taught to us, and the community could have done a better job, right, of reaching out and showing you there were other chances.
Oh, for sure.
Um, you know, kind of to your point, everybody ABB is a big organization. You guys have a lot more resources, and there's a lot of smaller automation companies or integrators or distributors that are maybe may be able to be active in their communities, but they don't know how, um, or they don't have the large resources that you might. What would you recommend to them for helping to build their community pipelines and do that in a way that maybe is more within their means if they don't have such huge backing?
Yeah, I'm starting to see more and more smaller companies look at the larger companies like ABB, and I've spoken to a few of them, and like and they ask like, what can we do? We believe education is really important. We want to work with our next workforce. We want to invest, but we don't have that much money and we don't have the resources. And my advice is to start local. So partner with a school, sponsor a robotics team, offer tours of your facility, Or, you could host a career day. You could also go to the school, as an individual and talk about your career journey. You could talk about your products. You could bring fun projects for them to do for an hour, one of the days, so they get the hands-on experience in the classroom. Workshops during school hours can really make a difference, since it reaches students who might not have access to these opportunities. But also, on the side of mentoring students, donating materials to a school to do a project or a competition. You really don't need a big budget to make an impact, but consistency and showing up and investing time matters. So when local employers get involved, it really helps students see clear and real opportunities in their own communities, which I think is really key to filling the pipeline.
Yeah. And if it's just time, right? And, I mean, from my experience with like engineers and stuff, a lot of times they want to share what they know, especially with somebody who's curious, who's interested, and, going and speaking isn't a crazy investment, but.
And I just wanted to circle back to one thing you said earlier that I also really liked was, not that I didn't like your whole reply, of course I did, but the idea of Legos, right? Like Legos being something that a lot of these robotics companies create to send home to kids. And, for so long, it was kind of difficult for me to explain to my kids what exactly I did. They're like, you work with robots? Like, not really. Like, within the industry, what kind of robots? Like the ones you see in movies? Not really. But then I'm bringing home robots that are like, a set that's designed for bin picking. Years ago, one of the companies made a bin picking robot, and I have a friend that works at Boston Dynamics, and he brought some Spot robot Legos, and I'm hoping that, like, in my kids, I've got 3 boys. I'm hoping that one of them will pick it up and like it will register with him, like, this is going to be the thing that I do. Maybe it won't, and he'll just have fun with it. But either way, maybe it will, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And one other thing that I kind of alluded to, and I just want your opinion on it, just because I feel like you're really in tune with the industry and out there talking to a lot of people, is like, one is, I mentioned that it feels like people are getting over the fear of robots replacing jobs. So if you disagree with that, I would like to know. But then part 2 of that is like, if we are over that hump, how do people feel about AI, right? Because folks in the industry know how to talk about AI, or they have there are specific things you talk about within the context of AI, whether it's large language models or predictive maintenance or computer vision, machine vision, whatever. In the outside of the industry, in the general population, AI scares some people. So what's been your experience there?
Changes and new technologies always scare people. But again, to my point, it's enhancement, not replacement. So one common misconception is that automation and AI will replace people entirely, when in reality, it enhances what people can do. AI can process large amounts of data, or power vision systems to detect things that the human eye may miss. But empathy, creativity, and complex problem solving are strengths that only humans can bring. So tools like ChatGPT, they can support learning and innovation by providing quick information and generating ideas and sparking ideas, but they really don't replace the brain power, the adaptability, and the emotional intelligence that people contribute. So the true value of using AI emerges when people use their own creativity paired with AI, and using their own judgment and using their own problem solving as well. So it's a tool to enhance work, not replace work.
Yeah, 100%. I ran into a company recently that said that they were an AI company, and they said, well, we found success with this one customer because their executive had given them a mandate to use AI. And I'm like, just a general mandate, like no specific guidance on what type of AI? Because AI means lots of different things these days. And I think that's, to your point of it being an enhancer, is it's not a tool for every job. It's very powerful for a lot of things, but it's not magic.
Right.
So I think, and again, to your point is, if you try using ChatGPT for anything, the output is only as good as the prompt, which is the case with AI in general. If you if you train a vision system with poor images, you're going to get poor results, and so on.
Yeah, 100%. AI is such a buzzword used, and that's the question I have: is what version, what kind of AI are you talking about?
Yeah.
AI vision systems, or ChatGPT, or different technologies and tools. But again, yeah, change always sparks a little bit of fear in people. That's why I think when you start early on and you expose students early on, they get more comfortable and like, I can use this. But again, for example, ChatGPT, it's not accurate. I mean, no matter years down the road, will it be 100% accurate? No. So it just sparks more and more ideas and creativity, and then you just use it as a baseline and build from there. So.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Good.
So just to pull us back to the education student programs and stuff, I was curious, you had mentioned earlier about, out of school programs being a little bit less accessible. But obviously like programs like First Robotics have become really popular. And, from my understanding, they really have been driving a lot of young people to have at least an interest in robotics and to start exploring these types of careers. Do you see any other programs like this starting to grow or gain any steam, or, how could industry get involved or maybe start more of these programs?
Yeah, there's a lot of other programs in addition to First Robotics, both within the local communities and also well known nationwide and globally as well. So, like World Robot Olympiad, Skills USA, Vex Robotics, and Project Lead the Way, to name a few more, all of which are doing amazing work. Students learn best when they're having fun. So these competition and the hands-on activities and the school projects are really a great way to make learning more engaging and exciting for the students. And the way that companies can get involved is through mentoring students, sponsoring teams, donating equipment, or even just serving as a judge in the competitions is huge. Being on the sidelines, cheering them on, those are some things that I have done as well, both on the judging and cheering them on, and taking videos and making videos of the students. It's exciting. It's just exciting to be part of it. But on the industry side, you see the potential of the future, because you're just amazed by what the younger generation, it can complete in these competitions, in these challenges. And the biggest impact comes when you consistently show up and you support, showing the students what careers in automation look like, really inspiring them to see the possibilities and their potential. You'd be amazed at what the
Mhm.
younger generation can achieve these days.
Yeah, just goes back to that giving your time thing, huh? It's
Sure.
not hard. I think sometimes we make these things seem so much. I have to do a lot. I have to have a lot of money, or I have to donate technology. And it's like, I mean, yeah, just going to judge a competition or give your expertise on what they come up with, or being a mentor for a team would be just enough.
Yeah, and I've had people say, "Well, I have to have a certain presentation for each school if it's engineering." No, you don't. You don't have to. The kids don't want a PowerPoint presentation. They want to know, what have you done? How have you learned? And if you don't, if they ask you a question you don't know the answer, you're both learning. So you can just go back, find the answer. You just learn something new, and they just learn something as well. So it's nothing to be afraid of, and it doesn't take that much time. It really doesn't.
Right.
Christelle, what about like the ARM Institute? I think that's really more for people that are already in the industry, but to some extent they work in workforce development, don't they? That really interesting person I met there not long ago was doing a podcast, a robotics panel, and after we got off the podcast, she said, "Hey, two of the people that were on this podcast, their companies spun out of the ARM Institute. Did you know that?" I said, "No, I had no idea." And we started talking more, and she was explaining to me more about how it works. But what are they doing in workforce development, or is it largely just kind of advancing technologies?
Yeah, ARM is a great organization that they actually have a website called roboticscareer.org, where you can find manufacturing engineering jobs and that kind of will allow others that are looking for jobs to see that. But they will partner with industry, education, and also government to get certain funding to do projects, research and development, and support smaller startups as well. So it's another great organization in addition to A3, so the Association for Advancing Automation also brings together industry, education, and the communities to kind of support our future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would be remiss to not mention A3. I did the podcast at an A3 event, and it's just they're the they're the definitive resource in a lot of ways, right, for everything automation. But yeah, I just thought that the Arm Institute idea was pretty interesting, right? Because like it's almost like you can picture the path of a kid getting interested in robotics, going up into school, taking some classes, whether it's ideally part of their curriculum or whether it's after school, whatever. Going to college for it, developing a startup, working on that startup, going into the Arm Institute, that is kind of like the next step. So I was just wondering if that's how you saw it as well. So yeah, and that job board is very interesting too. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to that point, I was kind of curious too. We talked a lot about like, young people, but there should be something to be said for, right, like attracting adults who are trying to reskill or upskill, people who are trying to find a new career path or something. What could or should industry be doing to try and reach those folks? Are there programs, or some of the stuff, First Robotics and stuff, is very specific to kids in school, but if I'm just looking for a new career path, are we really doing anything to try and capture those people?
Yeah, so I've met adults who have realized they wanted a career change and they've come to ABB for training. Some started to learn, training through robot operations, safety, then moved to programming a robot, and then eventually becoming a robot integrator. But it's a great example that learning doesn't stop once you start a career, and ongoing training and adaptability are essential. So employers should invest in upskilling their workforce. An industry can support this. So let's say someone wants to do a career change. Partnering with community colleges or workforce development centers is a good idea. Participating in career fairs and expos, or even offering training programs both virtually and in person is a great idea. We talked about ARM having roboticscareer.org, that job site, but also there's a lot of different organizations that offer training, like A3 will offer some safety courses and training, and Tooling USME will offer some training courses as well. So those are some ideas. Open houses or facility tours can also give adults ideas of what's possible. It may even inspire them to explore a career in automation. I know Amazon down the road from me, you can sign up for a tour. They have multiple days a week where you can sign up for a tour of their packaging center, and you'll see automation in full speed there too. And it's open to young kids and also up to adults as well. So
I've got kind of it's almost a selfish question, but I know that you've been on a number of podcasts and you're out and about in the industry and you know a lot of people and you're having a lot of interesting conversations. What's most interesting these days? Like what are some topics that have come up a lot, or maybe just what are you most excited about in automation and manufacturing today?
Lots of things excite me. How automation is solving real world challenges, from addressing workforce shortages to creating safer work environments and even helping industries become more sustainable. Automation isn't just about machines, it's about making life better for people and communities. So really seeing how automation is just expanding beyond the automotive industry and into smaller businesses and organizations and things like that it's super exciting.
It really is, right? Like I did a podcast not long ago with a company that designs robotic systems that builds sustainable, affordable homes, right? So it's it's a really, like to your point, it's like making life better. Like in some cases, if your robot is being used to assemble phones, well, in a way, that's making life better. People need phones, but you can see a more direct impact to, let's say, being like intrinsically rewarded by knowing that you're providing affordable, sustainable homes for people who otherwise maybe can't afford them. And yeah, to the point of automation going beyond the factory floor and or maybe just the automotive factory floor, but even beyond any factory floor, it's out there adding value in a lot of different ways, from the farms to building homes to the food business and the food industry in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Some really exciting companies in all those spaces and beyond. So yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah, architecture, 3D printing bridges in Amsterdam, a metal bridge. So there's wire arc additive manufacturing, WAM. There's 3D printing concrete houses. It's just cool stuff. Fun, exciting, cool. I always love seeing new videos of how it's being applied. And also, the sustainability factor of things just makes it even better. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the last thing, aside from that I wanted to touch on was just, we have Manufacturing Day is coming up again this year in a few months. Kind of curious how you view these kinds of events for driving awareness for the industry. Is there something we could be doing more of, or, how will you be celebrating it?
Yeah, Manufacturing Day, October 3rd. It's a great way to show people what modern manufacturing looks like: high tech, innovative, and full of opportunity. The more interactive the event, the better the impact. And so, how will ABB be celebrating? We celebrate every year by working with our local county, which is Oakland County, to host students from different high schools. And the students are taken for a tour of our U.S. robotics and headquarters, the manufacturing facility. They'll meet employees from different departments, from engineering to human resources, marketing, finance, operations, our factory, shipping and receiving. So they'll talk to all of these different departments and hear about the career paths of our employees. And then, of course, they get the hands-on time with our robots. We have multiple stations set up for them to explore, which is always a highlight. So super fun event to partake in, but that doesn't have to be the one event of the year. We have always are inviting students and clubs over to visit our facility. And being an industry, you can go to a school, as I had mentioned, or the school can come to you and show them what you're all about.
Is there anything else we haven't talked about? Like, for example, I'd be curious again, like if there's one message you could put out there to younger people, whether it's, I don't know, maybe kids in high school or whatever age would be most appropriate, but like, what would be your one message to them in terms of letting them know about the opportunities within manufacturing and in automation today?
I would say my one message wouldn't just be for the younger up and coming generation. It's pretty much for everyone. And I'd like to emphasize that networking and relationships really, really matter. So building strong partnerships, staying connected, being consistent, showing up, and learning from each other is how we move forward as an industry. The more we collaborate, the better we can prepare the workforce of tomorrow. Having students reach out and get mentors or ask questions, I think is super cool. Staying connected, growing with that network, seeing how people, grow around your network and building each other up is really important. So I'd love to continue the conversation though. So if anyone wants to, speaking of networking and relationships, if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Well, I really appreciate it. Yeah. And on that note, if people want to learn more, I would encourage you to follow Christelle as well and visit ABB on LinkedIn and ABB.com and see what's going on in terms of new products and initiatives on their end. And I'm sure that you'll be able to find Christelle at a number of industry events. Anything coming up soon you'll be at?
I will be at a lot of local events that aren't like the big automate shows and things like that. So mainly just supporting locally and visiting schools locally. I don't have anything global yet, but yeah, stay tuned. I typically post where I'm going to be on LinkedIn.
Fair enough. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And like I said, if anybody has any questions, they can follow Christelle on LinkedIn or check out ABB.com, or we'd be happy to pass them along. You can reach out to us at manufacturing-matters.com. Thanks everyone very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Bye.